for the last panel of the day, I would like to kind of welcome upon our panelists who are going to talk about investment theory and so on and so forth. So please give a warm round of applause to our panelists for the last panel of the day.
All right, perfect. It's our last panel for the day. I think we've had some fantastic content throughout the entire afternoon, and I think some of the feedback I've been getting outside while talking to a few people has been the level of polarity and intensity that we've been seeing this conference is quite refreshing. And I think everybody's kind of been enjoying that. So I have two requests for our panelists today. Let's keep up the same level of intensity and polarity. Don't hold back on your opinions on this topic. And number two, let's make this a discussion, right? Don't only leave it to me to ask the questions. Feel free to ask your fellow panelists any questions that you'd like. And this topic is especially, I think, a good one to end today's, whole day of panels with, because we have a lot of Web2 investors in the room. And there's been a lot of learnings, and I think everybody's kind of asking themselves, what's in it for me? What does all this mean for me, right? Beyond, investing in tokens and maybe risking, losing money on a pump and dump, right? So I think just before we get started, I'd like to maybe just get all of the panelists to do a quick introduction of themselves. I think we'll start with Dima, and then we'll get going.
Thank you, guys. My name is Dima. I'm coming from Portugal, where we partner with Gilly on many business ideas and social enterprises. And I spent 20 years working for JP Morgan, investment banking, and last 3 years I shifted more into the wellness and investments. And yeah, this is about me.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dereck Hoogenkamp. I'm Dutch Caribbean, proudly from Curaçao. And I love Thailand, and that's my main goal here. No, I'm joking. I'm into real estate, and I'm into tech. I love real estate, a lot of experience in resort development and creating new destinations. Secondly, I love RWA, real estate combined with tech, and the latest innovations like biometrics, like access control, electronic ID. I'm also an investor in many projects. My group is called Yalla, so that's a little bit fun one, right? And I spent most of my time in Europe, Asia, South America, Africa, and I ended up in the most beautiful place on this planet, which is Bangkok, to live, in my opinion. I have a lot of questions, so thank you, Manit, for that. And if you want to learn more about the investments I did and about real estate combined with tech, let me know. Thank you.
Gilly. I spent most of the last 10 years in Hong Kong, now in Portugal. First part of my career in luxury branding, and since then, tech, kind of early stage venture building and real estate. And that's it.
Manit Parekh. I think everybody knows me, I suppose. But just the CEO of BNRY Holdings, living in Thailand for 7 years, born in India, studied in America, been a nomad pretty much all my life. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, guys. So I think, Gilly, I'd love to start with you. But just before that, I was reading up a very interesting statistic, or I came across a very interesting statistic not too long ago. 2024, we had about $10 billion deployed into Web3 companies. And that followed about 30, close to a 40% quarter-on-quarter growth in all of 2023. Developer contributions to the space has doubled year on year. So this space is obviously not one that is going anywhere. Gilly, what I'd love to kind of understand from you is, why do you think Web3 is not a detour? but rather a very natural next step in this digital evolution. And what made you lean in, rather than just sitting on the fence, like maybe a lot of us are still?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the promise of Web3 hasn't really been realized. And like, I don't know, many people that I knew, I was in Hong Kong investing in the ICO boom, and we were talking about utility tokens, and I lost a lot of money, and I had a nice learning curve. And, you know, since then, trying to understand Web3 and the decentralized identity and ownership in the digital space and what all that stuff means. And so for me, when I kind of look at it, I look at a couple different things. Really, I try to look at scale and utility, and I try to relate everything to my own experience, because in my past, when I didn't do that, I lost money. And so when I think about scale and utility, I really try to boil it down so that it's something I can understand. And if I think about utility, for example, when we used to talk about utility, we were talking about ICO stuff and tokens. And the utility we talked about, we thought we knew what we were talking about, but really didn't. So if I, for example, bring that back to TBH, I say, okay, well, is there real utility here? Well, yeah, you can take your tokens and you get a discount on your telco bill. For me, I can understand that. So when I talk about utility, I really try to understand what's real world utility, and is there scale? And so again, because we're here, TBH, I say, is there real scale? Okay, yeah, there's real scale, 500 million, 1 billion users. So when I think about the Web3 space, I really try to personalize it to myself and understand if it can be impactful. Right. And if I don't do that, I miss the boat. I'm not a tech guy, so I can't really look under the hood and tell you if the tech is going to work or not work. I try to understand it from a macro point of view. But if I look at the people and the scale and utility and say, can it have real world impact on a massive scale, to me that's meaningful. And that's why I think Web3 is important and is our future, because I see it in a variety of different ways through that lens. So.
And in your journey from being a Web2 investor into a Web3 investor, was there a tipping point for you in your journey that where you were maybe on the fence, but a certain kind of project came along where you felt, you know what, this is the right one for me?
Yeah, I was late to the game. I mean, I was in Hong Kong. All of my friends are talking about crypto. I was talking about crypto. We were investing in crypto. Most of my stuff went up and came down. I didn't know when to pull my stuff out. And so I learned lots of little lessons along the way, and kind of came out bruised and battered, and still interested in understanding the tech, because it was clear that it was here to stay. It was no longer a flash in the pan. And so as the tech has caught up with the, with the energy, and as blockchain has become utilized in a variety of different ways, and I can finally understand what's the real world impact, well, that has kept me involved in the industry.
Got it. No, thanks for that, Gilly. Dereck, I'd like to pull you into this one. You and I have known each other for a long time. I think we share a very deep passion for real estate and tech. What were the trends that you saw in kind of these two industries that made you take the leap?
Yeah, that's very interesting. If we go back, I've been through the telecom boom, I've been through the real estate boom, I've been through all the booms, the audio text boom, the crypto boom. I think it's also one of those booms, right? And it doesn't really matter what product, if it's the best product or if it's the best tech. It really matters about that's what I like in BNRY also, is about the distribution, and that people really gonna use it. It doesn't have to be the best product or the best utility or the best, let's say, asset-backed security or something like this. So if we take a look at real estate, for example, in 2001, I had my first metaverse. I went into, I was, I think, the first person who accepted crypto payments in my bars and restaurants in Bangkok. And that was not even with Bitcoin, it was with Dash at that time. And so all fine. It was for me more like a learning curve, right? And to understand what it's about. But my core is still real estate. So let's take real estate as the core. So, for example, people say, oh, I want to tokenize real estate. First of all, why? Oh, I want to use blockchain. Why? right? Even if you ask that question, why would you even use blockchain, or why would you even tokenize? Are you really getting more sales? Are you really getting more liquidity? Are you really? So that's the first question. The second question is, if you're gonna tokenize for a real estate, for example, how are you gonna tokenize? Are you gonna tokenize as an asset-backed security, which involves, for example, in Germany or in Switzerland, a lot of regulation in 600-page prospectus in Thailand, for example? Is it really useful to do it now? So we're really in a transition. The second one, you can tokenize real estate through time, right? Or through right of use. So there's so many questions you have to ask before you really can say, okay, is digitalization even useful, right? But, of course, if we talk about digitalization of real estate, liquidity is really important, transparency is really important, usability, everything goes faster, it's easier, right? And also, it's more understandable for the new generation, right? And also, you can quicker connect other digital possibilities to, for example, when you are already digitalized, right? That is also idea of the ecosystem of BNRY, right? And I think everything is going to be tokenized, even your time. I'm really sorry for everyone. And that was also a movie, I believe, right? Yeah. And but it's really going to happen. It's already happening because. But I always compare it with you can learn from history. History is repeating, not only in BTC, but also I just spoke with someone about it. Telecom boom, real estate boom, internet boom. It's the same now in Web3. And then at a certain point, nobody will talk anymore about Web3. Nobody will talk about blockchain. I mean, do you really care how the internet works? I don't care. Right? It's about utility, meaning usage, how you use it, how easy it is, how easy is it to integrate. And for real estate, it's rather difficult, to be honest, but it's really fun, right?
Right. Thanks for that, Dereck. Yeah, I think this is a repeating theme that we've heard all day, right? The fact that user experience is critical to really get to mass adoption. But just before we transition from you, Dereck, do you think being asset-backed is an important part of Web3 in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, it's a really simple answer. Web3 doesn't work without Web 0, because the Web 0 is the real world, right? So it has to be an asset-backed security in the end, right? And not only rights, right, to certain things. Fully asset-backed security is something really tangible. It's really easy with, for example, commodities, right? Or digitized gold or digitized silver or whatever like this, right? And this is so important because people want to still have something tangible in their life, right? I mean, it's different if you do rights of artists or fans, which you guys also really know well, right? Or sports or something like this. But I believe still that people want to own their stuff and really want to touch it and really want to utilize it. So this is so important, which people forget in the Web3 space. It's all like la la la. It's like fantasy land, Right. And look at what is it called? That metaverse. I'm not going to mention the name, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. They had like 20 users a day, and they were worth 20 billion. I mean, what the f? You know what I mean?
Yeah, thanks for that, Dereck. Just shifting gears a bit to you, Manit. Can we get the mic for Manit, please? Thank you. On the builder side, you're both an investor as well as a builder. But on this side of the table, what sentiments have you seen kind of evolve over time from an investor standpoint, right? In terms of raising capital against certain Web3 projects?
A lot of the investors, if there are 100 investors in the room, 20 investors are investing because they don't want to miss the boat outline. They don't understand Web3, they just want to go in and invest.
So you're saying FOMO is a big part of it?
FOMO is a big part of it, for sure. Number two, it's about tangible success, proven contracts, proven integrations, scale, adoption. That leads to a Web2 investor understanding the basics that, okay, in Web3, the flow of money or the flow of token might be different, but the common fundamental is still how Web2 would build a business. And that is platform, users, partnerships, people using it. But instead of MAU and DAO, looking at unique transactions per day on-chain, because MAU and DAO can be fudged. You can get a farm in Bangladesh who can keep doing click, 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 and you're getting your MAUs and DAOs. But the moment you have tangible on-chain transaction, that completely changes because that's more real. And that's the second audience or second group of people that I know who are investing in Web3. Number 3, perception is bigger than reality, right? If I give an example of Elon Musk, that man has created such a perception in the market where his company is probably $1 trillion market cap. But to be honest, China EV has more market share than he has. Every time he comes out with a product, he comes out with a promise, but hardly it gets delivered. But yet, he gets money. So what I mean by that is, previous success, if you have, you are more prone to get investment. Whether you become successful or not, it doesn't matter. The investors also invest on potential legacies that you have in terms of being successful in the past. And finally, what I've also seen is a lot of investors invest because they just believe that, okay, let me just take a chance, let me just put my foot in the door, because if this thing becomes what it's supposed to become, I just want to be at the step of it so that I can accelerate my investments if I want to. So I think I see investors of 4 kinds. And typically, I don't have a percentage, but this is how the investors in Web2 are investing in Web3. And for me, it was more about, as Gilly mentioned, right? It was more about what could relate to me. So if somebody comes to me and says, hey, there's a great manufacturing plant, I don't understand manufacturing. Right? Then why am I going to invest?
Right.
But I understand financial engineering. I understand how to extract revenue per user. I understand how to connect the dots. I understand how to stitch things where supply and demand can be controlled. That's where I would invest in Web3.
Right. And you've built across what we call both the bear and the bull, right? You've built through an entire cycle. You started this project in 2020. How have you seen kind of the difference in investor kind of sentiment and education when you started the project compared to today?
I mean, when I started the project, I had probably hundreds and thousands of rejections. They just felt the project that I was doing was very simple. Where is the scale? And then, of course, the markets were down. There was, I think the Ukraine-Russia war started and multiple stuff happened. A lot of money got pulled back. And then, when the markets went up again and we evolved, a lot of people came and asked us, what do you really do? They understand there is scale, but now they don't understand what we do. Right? So I think investors who are investing need to educate themselves with the companies that they're investing in, to understand the evolution of the journey of the entrepreneur or the company, to see how they are fitting in the scale, because at the end of the day, at some point, you need to hit that critical mass and scale to grow and grow and grow further. Otherwise, you are just another small, medium enterprise business who's happy. And again, there's nothing wrong in being a small, medium enterprise business. You're still doing an extremely profitable business. You're happy, you're sustained, but there are eccentrics like me who are not happy with that. So when I start scaling, a lot of investors ask me, how can I summarize you in one word? So I say we're an infrastructure company. The moment I say an infrastructure company, they're like, oh, how does payment fit in? How does AI companion fit in? Simple answer is, when you're an infrastructure company, there are 2 sides of the infrastructure. One side is supply, distribution. You plug that in, and on other side is demand. You can keep adding whatever you want as long as you have the distribution, and as long as it's B2B2C. If you can keep plugging in, you keep scaling, because automatically in dating, in fintech, in gaming, in social, in engagement, in content, each one of them, there is scale in each vertical, and you can automatically start building a tech stack in each of those verticals as deep as you can go, and everything adds to the value, and that shows scale.
Right.
So I think the investors talking to the founders to understand more on a regular basis gives them an understanding of what real scale is in Web3, because the only success story that we know in Web3 is Binance as of today, then there is MetaMask, then there was FTX, which was back in the days, Axie Infinity. But if you look at it, a lot of these guys, the scale is now kind of getting slowed down because there are too many players in the market who are trying to do the same thing. So that's how I put it.
Perfect. You touched on a very important point, I think, the role that macro factors play. And Dima, would love to hear your thoughts on this, right? Macro factors like the war that broke out about 3 years ago. How does, I guess, the evolution of macro factors and infrastructure, right, that we've seen in the Web3 space, how has that played a role in democratizing access to investments in this new technology?
Let me maybe start from the point of user, and I think we all touch about it, utility and experience. And as I was contemplating the question, I was imagining what would be the heaven user or heaven experience in terms of the user. So all of us, we pick up this thing first thing in the morning.
Right.
And I would like to be in heaven when I just look at it and I get my loyalty gold in my wallet. I open my phone, I don't know, play the game, I go to social, and I can hear this ding, ding, ding of my loyalty gold coming in all the time. And this is the ideal situation when I would like to be in terms of the loyalty, in terms of the creating the value out of my phone. Same with data, people saying, oh, would like to have control of my data. What does it mean, this control for me? The real control for me means if somebody accesses my data, I get my loyalty gold and I hear a ding in my phone, right? Because otherwise it's meaningless conversation. Maybe in some cases I would like to give more data. I'm happy to share my DNA if I get paid well. And as I look at what's happening in BNRY, I think there's a good chance to create experience like this for user, where actually your phone become real reward in many ways, in terms of hardware, software, application, and entire ecosystem. In terms of the macro, unfortunately, we're moving away from the, or maybe fortunately, into more segregated world. And I think when something sizable and important coming from the place like Asia, which is much more mellow and neutral, it's actually it's many times easier if it would come from Silicon Valley, for instance, or from Russia or from China.
What's the reason for that?
Well, we all know the reason, right? The world, there's always tension. And again, I don't want to get into the political issue, but right. I feel here, it's coming almost from the roots of Asia, from the place when you don't have that much political tension, and actually you can bring it in the right way to the market when the user is the first. It's not about the company that trying to own the data or company that trying to do this. And listen, we look at all the Google and MetaMask and amount of cash they're holding. Why they're holding this cash? Because we give the attention, right? Because we give our data to them. And I think here it's a real change that hopefully gonna happen with BNRY, and users gonna be the beneficiary of this experience. This is my view.
You mentioned something pretty interesting about getting dings in the morning on your phone, where you're effectively able to monetize your own data, right? Is that something you deeply care about? Do you think that that's a future you would really like to see?
I think if you ask most of the users, including myself, eventually when someone will come with this product, And I believe this is why people invest in Web3, because this product, it's not even Web3, it's gonna have AI installed and all kind of different hybrids, kind of coordination inside. When this product will show up, users will vote for it. But it's not just the product, you need also the whole distribution and ability to roll it out. And this is when I look at binary, fundamentally, it's the right setup.
Got it. Makes sense. Thank you for that. I think with all investments, it must be inspired or driven by user behavior first, right? Only if it makes sense for the user will, I think, money kind of flow in that direction. So I think, Gilly, just coming back to you, I spoke earlier in the morning session that emerging markets have almost double the penetration rate of cryptocurrency adoption compared to their developed counterparts, right? I think we all have our own opinions on why that's the case, but would love to kind of hear your thoughts on why you think that's happening, whether that's Nigeria, whether that's Southeast Asia, India for that matter.
I think underserved, underbanked, underpaid attention to. And so you have all these customers who are out there and they've kind of been like the golden goose, right? There's a lot of companies going after them. And okay, back to BNRY has this wonderful opportunity to create real utility for all of these potential customers and create kind of a seamless cross-border experience for all of them. So you can travel from country to country, you can utilize the same system in the same network. It's a seamless transition. And then you have all of these underserved, privileged, they have less banking, they have less medical attention. And so it's so meaningful. If I think about, okay, forget America. In America, maybe you're earning points and you get $1 or $2 or $3 discount on your telecom bill. Not that meaningful. That's super meaningful in some of these Southern Asian countries. And that is powerful. I mean, for me, that's one of the most powerful things about what BNRY is doing, is to create that type of meaningful change in someone's life. And there's a ton of these emerging markets who have, potential users, and they're doubling, tripling. They're much faster growth than other first world countries, and that's an enormous opportunity. And so for me, that's the most exciting thing about what's going on here.
Do you think that investors, if they had a choice to kind of invest in kind of H&I verticals versus underserved verticals, which one do you think one should, right? And maybe this is more a personal opinion, but one should focus their attention, time, and money, right? All the resources that they have at their disposal. Which category do you think?
I mean, if you want scale, it's the underserved market. It's massively, it's a massive market. High net worth individuals, I don't know, it's a much smaller market.
Scale is I think one of the greatest things about this demographic, but how do you solve for the ARPU kind of challenges, right? A lot of people kind of, the trade-off of this massive market is the fact that each user doesn't really contribute that much in terms of revenue.
All right, let's just go back to BNRY.
Right.
BNRY now is on its way to 500 million, 1 billion users. And one of the conversations I've had over the last day or two with a lot of people here is, when can we claim that those users are our users? When do we own them?
Right.
And so when do we own them? When they engage with our platform, when we can earn, doesn't have to be $1, a cent. When we can earn 1 cent and they engage with the ecosystem, that's our user. Right? That they're participating in our ecosystem.
Right.
And when that happens, okay, so now you have to figure out how to monetize $1 per user per year. And we're well on the way to doing that. And again, I just come back to, I don't know any other company, any other Web3 company that is focused in that way, that has been able to find the scale, because there aren't that many verticals, there aren't that many places to find that kind of scale. And I think the light bulb moment was, Jesus, telcos are so under-engaged with. If I look at my own personal experience, which I try to come back to, I have a T-Mobile account in the US. I never go on the website. I keep it because I want to keep that number. And so if they were Facebook, they would be monetizing the hell out of me, but they're not. So they, oh, yeah, I have to keep paying my bill because I don't want to lose my number, but there's no monetization.
Right.
And so to offer that through the white labeled super app and an engaging ecosystem, that's powerful. It makes sense. And I think BNRY is on the way to figuring that out.
Awesome.
So.
Awesome. No,
Yeah.
thanks for that answer. Just in the interest of time, I'd love to open up the floor to any questions that the audience may have. Any questions on our last panel for the day?
Yeah, I think everyone wants to have a whiskey.
I think we have right here.
Steve.
Steve.
So since we're obviously on the topic of investing, if you guys are Web2 investors investing in Web3, what are the most important metrics that you look for? Are you looking for more traditionally Web2 metrics, or are you looking for more Web3 metrics like, you know, transaction volume and stuff like that? Or are you looking for, obviously we just talked about how MAU and DAU can be kind of manipulated, but what is the most important metric for you guys?
I think for everybody it's completely different. For me, it's really important, so that I'm maybe more traditional, is that if it doesn't work in the real world, I don't see the utility of the Web3 world, let's say. Let's call the Web2 the real world or the Web1, right? That is number one, what I look at. And then also because I'm head of a large VC community also, what do they look at? They really look at completely different things than the VCs were looking at 2 years ago, right? So then now what you said, utility is another one, right? And also, of course, the financial model. I mean, most people forget about it, right? And also sustainability. I think the company sustains at least 3 years, right? If they can sustain it 3 years, do you really believe that? And also, again, distribution. If nobody uses the product, what is the use of the investment, right? And it doesn't matter if it's Web 2 or Web 3. I mean, in the end, I look at the same principles I was looking 20 years ago as I'm looking now. Only difference is I know a little bit more about some new things which are called blockchain or called biometric technologies or called stuff like this. There's not much difference. And it just has to make sense. And then the last point, in my personal view, you also have to feel comfortable with the people you're dealing with. And then also, I believe there is a world economy. I think you should not focus on... There was one example of 1% of India, but I always like the product that could be used anywhere. Is it now Africa or New York? I don't really mind, right? And I think that is really important. And also, personally, if it's something which really could change the world for a better place, like wellness or like health, or like, again, biometric technologies or spiritualism, because I feel that I would prefer to invest in something that also helps the society and maybe gets rid a little bit that you wake up in the morning and first pick up your phone. I mean, that's why I like, for example, sports combined with tech, because sport is important, right, for your life. I mean, the main reason I'm here is because I'm going to play golf tomorrow morning. So, so this is really the thing. I think people forget about that, right? And I think that we will also go away from the mobile more. That's what I believe. And I believe that spiritualism, wellness, and health will be much more important. And then the only way to have that faster is to create an ecosystem, not even a platform. Because platform is Web 2, ecosystem is Web 3, right? And this is for me like key. I mean, you see, I also made really a lot of bad investments because I was too much into, wellness, health, la la la, spiritualism, right? But in the end, I feel comfortable with it and I like it. And then also, I think it's very important to look at something which is very honest and very transparent, because that is also, and then I believe also, sorry to say, in regulation. And I don't believe really in decentralization that much compared to what most people look at. Really regulated stuff, I think, is really good That's why I also think things go much faster in Asia, because there is an authority, right, who decides things. I mean, Dubai grew in 15 years, or what is it, 50 years in total it exists. But look what they did. If you agree with it or not, they grew like crazy, right? So I believe in that. So that's completely not decentralized, right? So I believe in those cultures also. So it's not only as a European, Caribbean, let's say, that is the only thing. I mean, I'm also scared with biometrics, with the company I work with, which is involved in biometrics and electronic ID, where that you use your body as your electronic ID. Even your seed phrase is your body, right? But it will all go there. You don't need more credit cards. You don't need more keys. You don't need more phone. You don't need nothing anymore. You use your body as your ID, as your everything, right? But the spiritualism and experience, number one.
Steve, I'll add here, right? I'll be very candid. Web2 investors don't know how to invest in Web3. Bottom line. They are traditional. They are mundane. They follow the same goddamn playbook, which has given them more failures than successes. You go to any VC, only 2% of their portfolio or maybe 1% of the portfolio is successful. Everything else is a loss. Out of the top 1,000 startups in the world who are $1 billion and plus valued or millions of dollars and plus valued, I can guarantee you at least 50% of them are loss-making entities. And yet the VCs keep going in and pumping in more capital, hoping that my friend here with another VC will come and buy my stake and take the valuation up, with him considering Dereck will come in and buy the stake further. It's complete bullocks. They are the ones who say, you should not play the valuation game, but they are the masters and the criminals behind the valuation game. Now coming to the honesty of what an investor, a Web2 investor, if he wants, or if he or she wants to be successful in Web3, they should look at tangible metrics. First metrics is on-chain data. Web3 is a world where on-chain data is recorded on blockchain. Check that out. That doesn't lie. Number two, what is your user participation? So in terms means if you have a game, how many people are actually playing a game? And in process, how many of them are actually creating a transaction within your ecosystem? How are you going to scale? So scale, partnerships, distribution networks, contracts in place, have a look at, because these are legit stuff. You cannot fake contracts. You cannot fake on-chain data. And then, of course, it is important because no idea in the world is bad. All ideas are great, executable, but they fail because the people behind them are the ones who did not execute properly. So at the end of the day, whether you are an early stage investor, late stage investor, it doesn't matter, because in Web3 it's no longer about valuations. It's all about how do I increase one transaction at a time, like volume. So somebody mentioned about HNI versus mass, right? I will choose mass anytime, because if I have 1 billion users and each of those 1 billion users do 100 transactions in a year, that's 100 billion transactions, right? I make $1 on every transaction. But those HNIs, they'll probably only make, let's say there are probably 10 million of them or 5 million of them. They'll only make 5 transactions in a year, that's 25 million transactions. I still make $1 out of them, but at the quantum, that 100 billion transactions are a lot more valuable, because they're not just money driving, but I'm also learning the behavior that they are doing, which is enabling me to earn more profitability, more revenue, which indirectly, if you combine all those 100 transactions that one user does, that's bigger LTV than that one person doing only 5 transactions, which is in the HNI category. So just to sum it up, if a Web2 investor is coming and telling you, hey, show me your financials, show me your MAU, show me your DAO, ask him to fuck off. That's the reality.
I look at, aside from scale and utility, I look at the people. And when it comes to the people, I try to break it down, some industry expertise, the normal stuff, grit and ego resilience and vision. And when I look at vision, can they see not only the future, but around corners a little bit? Can they see where the puck is going? And sometimes I can't, and I'm investing in someone who can. So for me, it's kind of those 3 categories. It's the scale, the utility, and really try to dig into the people side. And at least that side, if I spend time and I get to know them, I can kind of peel back the layers. Even though I don't have the domain expertise. I'm expecting that they do, but at least on the people side, I can figure out like what's going on under the hood. And so for me, that's kind of how I look at it.
Perfect. Dima, was there any last thoughts? Perfect. We have a long night ahead of us, so I'm going to wrap this panel up. I thank all of you once again for your attention this entire afternoon, and to all our fellow panelists. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you to the gentlemen on stage, and thank you guys. You guys have been an amazing audience. It's been a day of intensity. We'll catch you blowing off some steam at the Infinity Lawn, where you can enjoy some cocktails. And yeah, we'll keep in touch. See you there.